Hello, everybody. We are back with another spooky season recipe today. Today we are making Phil's black-eyed pea soup from the Horror Movie Night Cookbook. This is the other recipe featured for Scream 2. Like I said, with the Debbie's Salted Apple Cider Martini, I've seen Scream 2 a few times, but not a lot. And that we do watch the original Scream movie when during our spooky season, but we don't tend to watch the entire franchise. Um, but the soup sounded really good, really easy to make, so I did want to share it with you. Um, I have not made this before, so this is a completely new recipe, and I am excited to see how it turns out. So let's get started. All right, so for our soup, we've got some black-eyed peas. We've got cheese tortellini. I did get a multicolored cheese tortellini just because I thought that was going to look really pretty in the soup. But you could get just the regular cheese tortellini if you like. Like I said, I just got that because I thought it was going to look really pretty in the soup. So we have some frozen spinach. We've got a little bit of butter, some garlic. We've got chicken broth. We're going to use some Merlot in this. We've got a little bit of water. In here, I've got salt, black pepper, red pepper flakes, and some oregano or some basil. The recipe did call for fresh basil. However, my fresh basil was a little moldy, so I'm substituting some dried. It's gonna be fine. We've got onion, Parmesan cheese, and then we have some diced tomatoes. This is everything that we are going to use for our soup, so let's get started. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to melt our butter. I did get out my big soup pot for this. I honestly don't use this pot too much because of the size of it. It was a Christmas gift, I don't know, maybe about 10 years ago or so now, from my mom, and I had wanted it because I do make gumbo quite a bit, and this was a big enough pot for me to do a full batch of gumbo in and not have it not have to like cook it in two pots, or like I would be able to make like just a huge pot of gumbo like all at once with this, and it's kind of become a joke where we just call it the big pot whenever we're talking about what cookware to use and everything. So I did decide to bring out my big pot for the soup here. Once my butter is completely melted, I am going to add the onions and garlic and cook those. Once I get those added, I will be back. Alright, so I did get my onion and garlic added into this. We're just going to cook this for a little bit. I do also want to say, because I did forget earlier when I was going over the ingredients, the recipe did call for dried black-eyed peas that you soak according to the package. I am using frozen black-eyed peas just to save some time, save some steps. I just started a new work schedule, so it is kind of changing when I make these videos and everything like that. So kind of trying to get used to the new work schedule and all of that. And I actually hadn't planned on making the soup today. I was going to do it tomorrow after work, but it sounded really good and I didn't want to wait any longer. So I was really glad that I did get the frozen ones, because had I gotten the dried ones, I wouldn't have been able to make this earlier than I had planned, because I would have had to soak them. So the onions and garlic are looking really good. They're smelling really good. I love cooking with onions and garlic. It always just smells so amazing when you cook with them and gives such a nice flavor to everything. We're going to let this go a little bit longer and then I will continue. Alright, so I have the wine, chicken broth, and water in here. I was also supposed to add the tomatoes and the seasoning, so I'm going to do that really quick and I will be back. Alright, so I did get in the tomatoes and the seasonings like I was supposed to. We are going to bring this to a boil. Once this is boiling, we are going to mix in the spinach, tortellini, and the black eyed peas and let it simmer for a while. I gotta say, it smells really good. I can't wait to try it. When this is boiling and I'm ready to add the other ingredients, I will be back. Alright, so I did add in the rest of my ingredients except for the Parmesan cheese. That gets added in after this is cooked a bit. I'm going to kind of break up my spinach here because it's still frozen in the blacks. And we are going to let this simmer for about 25 minutes. After it has cooked for that time, I will be back. I do gotta say, it is looking really good. It's smelling really good, and I can't wait to try it. Alright, so I took this off the heat. I did add in the Parmesan cheese, and I'm going to stir it up. When it is done, I am going to have a bowl, and then I will be back with my final thoughts. Alright, so I am back with my final thoughts on Phil's Black Eyed Peas soup. I loved it. I thought it was great. Definitely worth making if you have this cookbook. It was super easy, had a really good flavor. It did have a little bit of a kick to it, which when I first tasted it, I wasn't sure about, but then by the time I had finished my bowlful, I'm like, okay, it needs this little kick. It did make a huge pot full of soup. I am going to be freezing some of my leftovers in my soup blocks, which I do also recommend you getting if you are somebody who makes a lot of soups. They are typically silicone like molds that are like square or rectangular size. You'll put your leftover soups in them, cover them with the lid, put them in the freezer, let them freeze. You can pop them out and then stick them in like freezer bags. And then when you want like a bowl of soup, all you have to do is pull out a block and you'll have like enough for one serving of soup. It is also great if you're single and the only one in your house. You can make a lot of this and stick it in your freezer and have meals later on without having to waste it. I got my soup box for Christmas last year from my mom, and I love them. We do use them quite a bit. So just a little side note, soup blocks are recommended. But anyway, back to the black eyed peas soup. Yeah, I thought it was great. I think next time I make it, I am going to add some extra black eyed peas and some extra tortellini. That is the only like adjustment I think I'm going to make. Everything else was perfect. I just thought I could use a little bit extra tortellini and a little bit extra of the black eyed peas, but that is something you could keep as written. I do know the bag of tortellini I used and the bag of black eyed peas I used were a little bit less than the recipe called for, so that could be part of it as well. Um, but I do think having that little bit extra in there would be really good. Um, I am planning on having some of my leftovers this winter when it's cold out and I just want something nice and warm and cozy because this really was a nice and cozy soup, which I know probably sounds odd, but that is like the best way to describe it. It was kind of like a comfort food, had kind of a comfort food feel to it, but then at the same time, it did have kind of like an Italian restaurant feel to it, and it was just super, super good. Um, so yeah, I definitely recommend giving this a try. Um, if you have this cookbook, like I said, it was super easy to make. Most of the time, you just let it simmer and didn't really have to do much to it except stir it occasionally. Um, so until next time, good food, good times, and stay spooky.